I swear on my last credit chip if that thing blinks again I'm shoving it out the airlock, Juno hissed, pointing her knife at the silent alien chained to the wall. The crew laughed. The alien didn't blink. He didn't breathe. He just stared. For the third hour in a row. Captain Rexa, leaning against the rusted wall of the cargo bay, sipped stale recaf and muttered, "I think he's broken. Can't be alive. Probably just some taxidermy project from a creepy collector." Then the lights flickered. The ship's AI chuckled. And the dead alien tilted his head. Just a few degrees. But enough to make everyone go still. Because corpses don't tilt their heads. Not like that. They'd picked him up from a border planet named Dreg's Hollow. Place stunk of old war dust and half-dead traitors. The alien hadn't resisted when Veb shackled him. No ID, no speech, no gear. Just a long cloak and eyes like molten glass. Riggs had joked he looked like a depressed lava lamp. They'd thrown him in the brig like excess luggage. The plan? Hand him over to the bounty office on Station Ravel for a quick payday. Even if he wasn't wanted, maybe someone would pay for the novelty. The galaxy was full of weirdos with money. The rust bucket was barely holding together as always. Panels sparked, the plumbing had one consistent leak that made a sad dripping sound in the mess hall. And the ship AI had developed a weird sense of humor after Veb tried installing sarcasm protocols. It often answered questions with lines like, "Would you like me to help you crash into the nearest sun?" Or, "Access denied unless you're more interesting than usual." Rexa never bothered fixing it. Somehow it matched the crew's energy. They were pirates in name, smugglers by trade and professional disappointments by choice. Rexa, once a military officer, had gotten booted for punching her commanding officer in the face with a grenade. Riggs was a walking hazard, his left eye permanently twitching from one too many neural ports fried. Juno was chaos with legs, beautiful, sharp, and always one conversation away from a duel. And Veb, once rich, now poor, had the voice of someone who still hadn't accepted he'd lost his inheritance in a poker game to a three-armed fungus alien. So when Deadpan, as they called the prisoner, showed zero reaction to being mocked, threatened, or analyzed, they naturally doubled down. Riggs tried feeding him pickled squid. No response. Juno did a one-handed knife flip and nearly grazed his throat. Nothing. Veb monologued dramatically about honor and war to see if it would trigger a response. Nada. "He's a decoration," Riggs said, annoyed. "A really creepy, biologically expensive decoration." "Maybe he's a monk," Juno offered. "The I don't blink because the universe owes me an apology kind." Rexa finally had enough. She walked over, grabbed the collar of his cloak and yanked it down to see if there was any tech implanted. That's when she saw it. A shimmering blue sigil, faint against his gray skin, glowing softly just below the neck. A spiral within a jagged circle. Simple, ancient, unmistakable. She froze. "What?" Juno leaned in. "Is that a tattoo?" "No," Rexa whispered. "It's a mark." Riggs frowned. "You mean like a clan mark?" Veb squinted and took a nervous step back. "Oh stars. That's the Velor insignia. That's impossible." For a long moment no one spoke. The Velor weren't just a warrior clan. They were a myth wrapped in war crimes, wrapped in extinction. Known for destroying an entire moon after one of their younglings was insulted in a trade deal. Their clan marks weren't decorative. They were biosignatures that could activate neural enhancements, nanoweapons or worse. They had gone silent 20 years ago after what was assumed to be a civil war that tore them apart from within. No one had seen one since. No one had dared look. Deadpan, Kale, though they didn't know his name yet, looked up. And blinked. Once. That one blink hit harder than a plasma grenade. "Rexa," Riggs whispered. "What do we do?" Kale tilted his head again, slower this time. The lights dimmed. Somewhere on the ship, a low vibration hummed, like something ancient had just been woken. We can't keep him," Veb stammered. "He's a threat. An actual, no joke, catastrophic level threat." "I say we space him," Juno said, raising her knife. "Before he blinks again." "I say we hand him over to someone else and pretend we never saw that mark," Riggs added. Rexa just stared at the mark, her brain racing. This wasn't some random freak from a dead moon. This was a living relic. Possibly a weapon. Maybe a survivor. And definitely someone who had allowed himself to be captured. He turned to Deadpan. "Why let us take you?" Silence. Then with a voice like sandpaper wrapped in calm, Kale spoke. You'll regret all your choices. Soon. The crew took a collective step back. The ship AI chimed in, voice gleeful. Now would be a good time to run. Or apologize. I recommend both. Juno dropped her knife. Riggs cursed in 4 languages. Veb reached for a chair and missed, collapsing with a thud. Kale didn't move. Just stared again calmly. Rexa, eyes wide, muttered, Stars help us. What the hell have we brought on board? In the corner of the bay, a maintenance bot turned on by itself. Then another. And another. One started cleaning a panel that didn't need cleaning. The ship AI began to hum a war tune banned by intergalactic law. Kale closed his eyes. And smiled. Not a friendly smile. Not even a menacing one. A tired, inevitable kind of smile. The smile of a predator surrounded by amateurs pretending they'd caught it. In the silence that followed, Rexa whispered what everyone was thinking. We didn't capture him, he let us think we did. And just like that, the cargo bay didn't feel like theirs anymore. The emergency lights flickered in a nervous red rhythm as Rexa stormed into the bridge, slamming the door shut behind her. Her breath came fast and shallow, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. Riggs was already there, desperately typing on the control console, trying to regain manual access to the AI core. Sparks crackled from a blown-out circuit nearby, and the entire ship groaned like it was remembering a pain from long ago. He spoke, Rexa said, voice sharp, low and unsettled. No kidding, Riggs muttered without looking up. And then the ship started singing like it was ready to go to war. Which is a problem because this ship can barely go to the bathroom without exploding. Juno barged in behind Rexa, knife in one hand, face pale despite her usual bravado. We have to kill him. Yeah, 'cause that's always worked out when someone says it right after the guy wakes up, Veb added as he followed, holding a cracked datapad like it might protect him. In case anyone forgot, that mark on his neck isn't just a pretty little symbol. It's Velcortic. You know, the kind of tech that responds to thoughts. Not buttons. Not switches. Thoughts. He was silent for days, Juno growled, pacing. Let us chain him. Drag him. Make fun of him. And now he just speaks one line and everything's falling apart. That's not a coincidence. He's doing something. He's connected to the ship, Riggs confirmed, grim. I checked the logs. The mainframe's firewall is bypassed from inside. But not by me. And not by you. He didn't hack in, he synced. The ship recognized his brainwave pattern the moment that mark lit up. The AI said to run, Rexa murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Since when does it give survival tips? Since it realized someone scarier than us is on board, Riggs answered. Veb sank into the co-pilot's chair and rubbed his temples. He's not just a prisoner. He's a walking warhead. And I don't think he wants to kill us. Yet. I think we're just irrelevant. Rexa turned to the central monitor and brought up the surveillance feed. The cargo bay was quiet again. Kale sat exactly where he'd been left, arms loosely resting on his knees, eyes closed. Like nothing had happened. Like he wasn't controlling half the ship with a thought. He looked almost peaceful. He let us take him, she said. He let us. Juno slammed her knife into the nearest console, metal clanging with fury. Then why now? Why not tear us apart the second we cuffed him? Why wait? Maybe he was hiding from something worse, Veb said, his voice flat. Maybe we just rang a very, very big dinner bell. No one responded. Somewhere deep in the ship, a low humming began to pulse. Riggs glanced toward the walls, his face tightening. That's the engine harmonics fluctuating. The last time I heard that noise was when we overloaded the warp drive trying to smuggle antimatter jellyfish through customs. Juno looked ready to murder someone. That's not even a sentence a normal person should ever say. The ship's not just responding to him. It's preparing for something, Rexa muttered. Weapons systems just powered up. Internal sensors are recalibrating. It's like it's waking up. What if he didn't just connect to the ship? Riggs asked suddenly, eyes widening. What if he activated something we didn't know was even here? Veb scoffed. Oh sure, maybe there's a secret Velcor core buried in the hull we somehow missed. Or maybe we're flying around in a haunted toaster and deadpants the ghost whisperer. The AI crackled to life through the speakers with impeccable timing. Correction. You are flying a retrofitted long-range salvage-class vessel once used during the Valkor skirmish wars. This model contains residual architecture, including dormant protocols awaiting clan-verified biometrics. All four froze. Riggs blinked. You mean, we've been flying a Valkor ship this whole time? Correction, the AI replied smoothly. You have been borrowing it. Ownership has now reverted to recognized clan mark holder. Juno stared at the ceiling. So now the ship is his. Kale opened his eyes in the security feed. The camera zoomed in on its own, framing his face perfectly. His lips moved barely. Watch this, the AI translated. All the lights on the bridge dimmed simultaneously. Then the ship shifted. Not physically but through sound, a deeper hum as though a second engine had just come online, one none of them had ever known existed. Panels across the walls retracted to reveal compartments filled with advanced weaponry, plasma rifles, adaptive shields, devices that looked like they belonged in forbidden tech museums. Riggs backed away slowly. I think the ship just remembered what it was. Or who it belongs to, Rexa whispered. Suddenly, proximity alarms blared. Unregistered ships approaching, the AI reported. 3 enemy crafts. Signature, Valkor opposition. Long-standing vendetta status confirmed. They have locked weapons. Locked weapons. Juno shouted. On us. They are responding to a clan mark signal. Protocol suggests termination of the marked entity and any associates. Veb paled. They tracked him through the mark. That blink wasn't random. It was a beacon. The screen showed the enemy ships closing in fast. Ugly, black, spider-shaped crafts with ion cannons already priming. Kale rose from the floor on the feet, calm as ever. He tilted his head up as if listening to the AI through the walls. Then again he spoke. Bridge. Open the door. A hiss sounded behind them. The bridge doors opened, revealing Kale, fully unshackled, standing just beyond the threshold. Riggs yelped. How did he? Those were mag-sealed. Kale stepped inside, unhurried. I asked. He walked past them straight to the captain's console. Rexa stood firm, blocking him with her body. You're not in charge here. Kale looked at her, eyes glowing faintly. You never were. He placed one hand on the console. Instantly the ship's systems responded. The star map morphed, the targeting grid changed, and a deep thrum pulsed under their feet like a heart beating for war. I can stop them, Kale said. But only if you let me finish what I started years ago. What did you start? Rexa asked warily. Kale turned his gaze toward the approaching enemy ships, expression unreadable. A rebellion. The screen flashed red. Incoming fire. Kale didn't flinch. Brace yourselves. And with that the ship moved, no longer creaking, no longer groaning. It moved like a predator awakened, sleek and furious. The hunter was now hunted. And the crew of the Rust Bucket was caught in a storm they never saw coming. The first blast struck the outer hull with a jolt that sent everyone staggering. Warning sirens screamed through the corridors, red strobes pulsing like the heartbeat of a dying beast. The enemy fighters were closing in fast, weaving between the drifting scrap and the debris field outside like predatory insects. The ship, their ship or what used to be theirs, moved with sudden grace, sidestepping incoming fire with maneuvers it had never been capable of before. The crew barely had time to grab onto railings as the inertial dampeners fought to keep up with the unexpected agility. Rexa was the first to recover, eyes locking on Kale, who stood like a statue in the center of the bridge. He hadn't touched a control panel since placing his hand on it minutes earlier. Yet every turn, every dodge, every targeting solution the ship executed seemed to pulse from him directly, as though he was playing an invisible instrument only he could hear. How are you doing this? She demanded, bracing herself as the ship dipped under another barrage of plasma fire. Kale's voice was steady, detached. The ship responds to me now. It was built for my bloodline. Designed to sync with neural pathways coded into the clan mark. It's more than a symbol. It's an interface. Right? Veb muttered, holding on to the edge of the navigation console. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be a psychic joystick for a flying death machine? Another blast rocked the hull. Kale's eyes flared slightly, and 2 of the hidden cannons the crew hadn't known existed emerged from the ship's underbelly. Twin beams of pulsed plasma lanced out, slicing one of the enemy fighters in half before its pilot could even register the lock. Debris spiraled into the void. Juno stared at the destruction, then turned to Kale with a strange expression. I'm starting to feel weirdly attracted to him and very afraid for my life. It's a complex emotion. Riggs, hunched over a secondary console, was frantically trying to interface with the systems Kale had activated. Half these subsystems were never on the schematics. The rust bucket's been playing dead for years. This thing's got classified Velcor tech, encrypted armories, AI-controlled countermeasures, even— Wait, is that a cloaking field generator? Of course it is, Veb groaned. Because we live in a cursed sitcom written by a lunatic. Kale didn't acknowledge the commentary. His eyes were closed now, body still except for subtle twitches in his fingers. The ship rolled hard to the left, narrowly avoiding a spread of homing missiles that should have torn them to shreds. One of the missiles, confused by a sudden jamming pulse, doubled back and slammed into a second enemy ship. The explosion lit up the stars like fireworks. I am accessing their comm channels, Kale said calmly. They're debating whether to continue the pursuit. The loss of 2 ships has made them cautious. They know what I am. Great, Rexa snapped. So you brought intergalactic murderers to our door and now we're just— what? Targets of opportunity. No, Kale said. You're witnesses. And now, assets. Riggs turned from his console, pale. I hate the way he says things. Every sentence sounds like a funeral invitation. Another alarm blared. Not weapons fire this time, internal systems. The AI's voice rang out, cheery as ever. Warning. Engineering bay breach detected. Unauthorized access. Suspected sabotage in progress. What now? Rexa groaned. Someone's trying to shut the ship down from inside, Riggs said, jumping up. Probably to disable Kale's connection. Juno was already on the move, pulling her blades from her boots. On it. I'm going with you, Rexa said, following close behind. But stay here. Keep Kale from turning us into battle snacks. Wonderful, Veb muttered. Stuck babysitting the space warlock. Kale didn't react. He remained still, the ship pivoting again as another barrage lit up the void. Down in engineering, the corridor was a mess of flickering lights and scorched bulkheads. Juno darted ahead, moving with the practiced grace of someone who made violence look like dance. Rexa covered the rear, pulse rifle drawn, senses sharp. As they reached the bay, they found the source of the breach. One of the maintenance bots had been tampered with, its internal processor glowing with a foreign signal, a backdoor virus trying to override ship control. Looks like someone uploaded a kill protocol, Juno said, inspecting the bot's core. Sloppy work though. Definitely not Kale. Too obvious. You think it's one of us? Rex asked. Maybe not us, Juno replied. But someone on board. Maybe something Kale dragged in when he synced. Suddenly the lights above flickered green. A wall panel slid open they hadn't even known existed, revealing a small room. Inside were old weapons, armor, and a stasis pod. They stepped in cautiously. Rexa, Juno said slowly. That's not just any stasis pod. That's military grade. Pre-Valcor era. Why would this be hidden here? Rexa moved to it and activated the faded control panel. The pod hissed. A pale mist vented out as the system cycled up. And then they saw it. Inside was another humanoid smaller than Kale, younger. Not quite alive. Not quite dead. Frozen in time. Back on the bridge, Veb turned to Kale, his fear thinning into curiosity. Who are you really? Not just your name. Not just your clan. What are you? Kale finally looked at him. A mistake, he said quietly. And maybe the last chance. Before Veb could ask what that meant, Kale's head snapped up. They found the pod. Riggs blinked. What pod? The one with my brother, Kale said. That single sentence hit like a comet. Rex's voice crackled through the comms. Kale, who is this? Why is there a second you in our basement? Kale's voice remained calm, but there was a tension to it now, a tightness in every word. He was the first. I was the last. Together we were supposed to rebuild the clan. But something went wrong. He disobeyed. He turned. Riggs suddenly gasped at his console. There's a signal coming from the pod. It's broadcasting to the enemy ships. That's why they found us. Kale stepped forward, urgency in his movement for the first time. You need to shut that signal down. Juno's voice came over the comm. It's too late. The stasis is disengaging. Kale's eyes narrowed. Then we're out of time. And across the stars, the remaining enemy ship changed course, charging full speed toward them, as if it had just received the coordinates for its true objective. Whatever war had started 20 years ago wasn't over. It had just woken up. The moment the stasis pod hissed fully open, a wave of icy vapor rolled over the floor of the hidden chamber like a ghost exhaling. Rexa took an instinctive step back, weapon half raised, while Juno remained utterly still, her eyes fixed on the figure inside. The body within twitched once, then again, and with a wet gasp, a man who looked almost identical to Kale sat upright, eyes glowing the same molten hue, but with something sharper beneath. Where Kale's presence had been calm and unreadable, this one radiated coiled aggression. His eyes scanned the room, landing on Rexa first, then on Juno, then flicking to the weapon racks in the corner with practiced precision. His mouth curled into a faint smirk and his voice was hoarse but chillingly clear. You found me. Took you long enough. Rexa swallowed hard, forcing her voice steady. Who the hell are you? He climbed out of the pod with eerie grace, every motion deliberate, controlled. Name's Vale. Designation, Velor Vanguard Prime. But you can just call me the better brother. Rexa activated her calm. Kale, we have a situation. Your brother's awake. And he talks like a villain with a PR manager. There was a long silence. Then Kale's voice came back, sharper than before. He'll try to manipulate you. Don't let him speak too long. Well, that's a bit late, Juno muttered, circling around Vale with both knives drawn. He already monologued. Vale looked amused. So, Kale's still sulking somewhere on the bridge, I assume? Still trying to atone for crimes he never had the stomach to commit? Still pretending to be human? Rexa kept her rifle trained. We don't care about your sibling drama. You've been broadcasting. You brought enemies to our doorstep. Vale tilted his head. Not enemies. Opportunity. Do you think anyone out there wants to destroy this ship? No. They want what's inside. The legacy. Me. Kale's voice broke through again. He's a traitor. He helped lead the rebellion against our own. The fall of the Velor wasn't an attack. It was an internal coup. He tried to seize control of the entire fleet. Lies, Vale replied immediately, smiling. I tried to evolve us. You wanted to bury us. You hid while I fought. You destroyed everything, Kale said. You turned warriors into monsters. Semantics, Vale replied, stepping closer to Rexa. She didn't flinch, but her finger tensed on the trigger. You see, your captain here understands power. I can feel it. She doesn't follow Kale because of loyalty. She follows because she's waiting to see which one of us is the better weapon. I follow because I don't trust either of you, Rexa said flatly. The ship trembled again. Up on the bridge, Riggs shouted over the comms, We've got more incoming. They just warped in. Bigger ships this time, cruiser class. Kale's voice came next. They're responding to the signal from Vale. They're here to extract him. And they'll burn this ship to get what they want. Vale grinned wider. Then you'd better choose quickly. Me or him. Back on the bridge, Kale stood with his eyes closed, one hand still on the console. He looked calm, but sweat now glistened on his brow. The connection to the ship was taking its toll. Every maneuver, every calculation, it ran through his mind like a river of voltage. Veb, standing nearby, noticed it first. You're draining yourself, he said quietly. The ship is pulling from your neural core. Kale nodded. It's the only way to keep pace with what's coming. The ship was meant for two. I was never supposed to do this alone. Riggs looked up from his console. Then you need your brother. No, Kale said firmly. I need him dead. Back in the chamber, Rexa faced the rising pressure of a terrible decision. Vale was dangerous but undeniably powerful. If he was telling the truth and he was the key to defeating the incoming threat, maybe they had to work with him. But if Kale was right, releasing him fully could end everything. And still there was a third, quiet truth humming beneath all the noise. Kale hadn't killed Vale before. Despite everything. Despite having him sealed away. Something had stopped him. Why didn't you kill him? She asked over the comm. There was a long pause. Then Kale answered. Because he was my brother. Juno shook her head slowly. We've had some messed up family dinners, but this is next level. Vale held out his hand. Give me access. Let me to the bridge. I can save us all. Rexa studied him, then tapped her calm. Kale. If I bring him up there, can you stop him if he turns on us? Kale's answer came in a cold whisper. No. But I'll try. Comforting, Veb muttered somewhere far away. Against every instinct, Rexa nodded to Juno. Let's take him. But the second he breathes wrong, we take him down. The walk to the bridge was tense. Vale moved like he already owned the place, scanning the walls with knowing eyes, making occasional comments that made Riggs curse under his breath. When the doors to the bridge slid open, the two brothers saw each other for the first time in decades. They didn't speak. Not at first. Just stared. The silence crackled with energy that felt ancient and heavy. Then Kale stepped away from the console and the ship immediately shifted. Its speed slowed, evasive patterns halted. You wanted control, Kale said. Take it. Vale smiled and walked forward. But as soon as he reached for the console, Kale blocked him with one hand. Before you touch this ship, he said quietly, you swear. No betrayal. No kill codes. No turning this crew into your army. Vale placed a hand over his chest and bowed mockingly. I swear, brother. Until the threat is gone, I'm yours. It was an obvious lie, but they didn't have time to debate it. Riggs shouted, Cruiser just locked weapons. They're hailing. Kale and Vale moved to the console together. Two hands on the system now, and the ship roared back to life like a beast recognizing both its masters. Energy surged through the circuits. Cloaking fields shimmered. The AI purred with eerie delight. Oh, this is going to be fun, the voice said. Shall I prepare a welcome explosion? The two brothers nodded. Then Kale spoke. Let's remind them what the Velcor were. And Vale added, and what we still are. Outside, space erupted as the cruiser opened fire, and the ship responded not like prey, but like a sleeping dragon that had finally decided to wake. The stars lit up in violent colors as the first salvo from the cruiser collided with the ship's shield barrier. It held barely, energy shuddering across the hull in waves. On the bridge, Kale and Vale worked in eerie harmony, hands flickering across the controls, minds entwined with the vessel's systems. It was like watching two sides of the same blade. One honed by restraint, the other sharpened by ambition. For the first time since it had left Velcor Command decades ago, the ship operated at full capacity. Cannons rotated, targeting systems triangulated with eerie precision, and the ship moved like something alive. The crew could only watch, breathless, as the impossible happened. Outside, the cruiser launched boarding pods, 6 in total, firing them toward the hull with explosive hiss. Kale reacted instantly, rerouting the ship's power to magnetic repulsion systems. 4 pods were knocked off course, spinning into the void. 2 struck the outer plating and held, beginning their breach. Juno and Riggs were already gone, sprinting down the corridors to intercept. Rexa followed them after locking the bridge behind her, weapon clutched tight, her mind racing through battle tactics she hadn't used since her days in the military. The corridors echoed with alarms and the mechanical grinding of metal as the pods began cutting through the hull. The ship groaned again, furious and awake. Vale, still at the console, spoke without looking up. His voice carried a dark excitement. He was enjoying this. They'll breach in 40 seconds. They'll come for me first. They know I'm their prize. Kale didn't respond. His focus was absolute, hands glowing faintly from the neural feedback as he restructured shield grids and rerouted auxiliary power to hidden turrets. Veb, standing back and gripping the edge of the control desk like it was the only stable thing in the universe, finally asked what had been gnawing at him. What happens when this is over? You two just walk off into the stars together, rebuild your clan, and leave us in a burned-out ship. Kale turned slightly, just enough to let Veb see the truth in his eyes. No. The clan is gone. All that's left are consequences. Vale snorted. Speak for yourself, brother. I never planned to rebuild it. I planned to replace it. And thanks to this fine crew and your predictable morality, I might just pull it off. Before Kale could reply, the sound of gunfire echoed through the comms. Juno's voice crackled through. We've got boarders. Humanoid, armored, fast. Using kinetic disruptors. Riggs is down but alive. I'm buying time. Could use a little of that god weapon magic anytime now. Kale's eyes closed and the ship responded instantly. Gravity shifted in the boarding corridor, slamming several intruders against the walls. Juno's laugh was audible even through the static. That's more like it. On the bridge, Kale pulled back slightly, clearly drained. Blood trickled from his nose. Vale watched him with something between amusement and concern. You're burning too fast. The ship takes more than it gives. Kale wiped the blood away, not breaking stride. That's the price. Rex's voice came next, terse and breathless. We've repelled the boarders, but we're bleeding. The next wave won't be so easy. Kale nodded to Vale. Without a word, Vale activated the next tier of systems. Experimental Velcor tech no one on the crew had ever seen. The ship's form shimmered and a pulse wave burst outward, disrupting every signal and scanner within 1,000 kilometers. The cruiser paused, confused. In that moment of hesitation, Kale launched every remaining drone and micromine in the ship's belly. The screen lit up with chaos. The enemy cruiser faltered, trying to reorient. The mines detonated in precise formation, rupturing the cruiser's external hull near its engine core. Fire and shrapnel spread like wildfire in space. One of its wings broke off completely. The ship reeled, lost navigation, and began to spiral into its own debris field. Silence fell. The threat for now was gone. On the bridge, the tension broke like a snapped cable. Vale leaned back with a satisfied sigh. I'd forgotten how good that felt. Kale disconnected from the console, staggering slightly before catching himself. His hands trembled from the neural backlash. Veb moved to help him, but Kale waved him off. Rexa returned a moment later, blood on her sleeve and soot streaking her face. She said nothing at first, just stared at Kale and Vale like she was seeing two gods that didn't belong in this broken universe. Then she finally spoke. So now what? You brought your war, we survived, and I assume another armada is somewhere on the way. What do we do? Rebuild the Velcor fleet from this rust bucket? Kale met her gaze, then looked to each member of the crew. Riggs, who was limping in behind her. Juno, dragging her blade and grinning through bruises. These weren't soldiers. They weren't heroes. They were people who had survived something they were never meant to endure. And in doing so they had become something more. No, Kale said. We don't rebuild what was. That legacy died for a reason. Vale raised an eyebrow. Careful, brother. You sound dangerously like someone with a conscience. Kale ignored him. We do something new. We protect what's left. And we never let anyone like us control things again. Vale laughed. You mean, you want to start your own clan? With them. Kale looked around the bridge again. Yes. Not by blood. But by choice. There was a long pause. And then Juno, wiping blood from her lip, said, Can we at least get cool matching tattoos or something? Veb raised a hand. I vote for something less permanent. Like pins. Or vests. Riggs groaned. I vote for medical attention and 12 hours of sleep. Kale smiled faintly. He turned to the console, touched it gently and input a new command. The ship's AI flickered on with a surprisingly reverent tone. Clan name. Kale didn't hesitate. Valari. It means to rise in the old tongue. The AI confirmed. Clan Valari established. Vessel aligned. Lights around the bridge shifted from red to silver blue. The ship's systems hummed not with the strain of war but with quiet acknowledgement. Vale stepped back, watching the change. For a moment he said nothing. Then he turned toward the exit. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. You'll regret showing mercy. Kale replied without looking at him. Maybe. But not today. Vale paused. Then surprisingly he nodded. When the others come and you'll need me again. Then we'll deal with it, Rexa said. On our terms. Vale left without another word. The crew stood there, not victorious, not whole, but standing. Against every odds. Kale looked at each of them in turn. You mocked a prisoner, he said. And now you're fugitives. Welcome to the clan. No one laughed. Not because it wasn't funny, but because it felt too real. Outside, the wreckage of war drifted in silence. Inside, something new had begun.